Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Ooh, I'm alive. Yay. This is so cool. Welcome to the Rosette, of course. Thank you for being here. This is a really special day. We're about to hear a magnificent conversation between Matthew Hinsley and Robert Fairs. I'm personally very excited about it. My name is Joe Williams. I'm the artistic director for Austin Classical Guitar. And just in case you stumbled in here and you have no idea what's going on, allow me just a little bit to share. So Austin Classical Guitar is a nonprofit organization devoted to service through beauty and kindness. That service often takes the form of music. We're devoted to cultural exchange, and that means we give world-class concerts and create a lot of programming, original programming, centered around our community. In fact, we call it community-centered art making. Our organization has transformed American public education for classical guitar. It's something really special, and it is, we like to think of it as a revolutionary force, and we are just so proud of that. 2026 marks the 30th anniversary of our Executive Director, Matthew Hinsley. Matt is a writer, a musician, a composer, a community servant. He's a fundraiser, and he is a leader. Over those 30 years, he's assembled and nurtured a team that does extraordinary work. And they do extraordinary work almost every hour of their waking day. Because of Matt's really powerful leadership, his visionary leadership, we like to think of ACG as a force for good. And we love this work. It's a result of our community. I share all that because it's important to know what we're going to talk about a little bit. A great part of Matt's work has been making this organization what it is. And his fingerprint is on every part of it. So we're going to hear about those 30 years, and I think we have just the perfect person to interview him, to lead this conversation in Robert Fairs. Robert has been an institution of the arts in our great city for over 30 years. He worked the art beat, all the spectrum of genres in our city, and wrote for the Austin Chronicle. He was a senior critic, a senior editor for the Austin Chronicle. And all through that time and up to current day, Robert is a big part of our theater scene. He's a writer, a director, and an actor. Just last year, he was inducted into the Austin Arts Hall of Fame, which is so cool. Before I invite them up, I just want to let you know that we will have refreshments throughout this experience and a little bit afterwards. I hope you stay and talk with each other. This is a wonderfully special day. It's my great privilege to introduce Robert Fairs and Matthew to the stage.
Okay, so let's go back to the lanky 20-year-old Oberlin grad who shows up in the land of slacker with the UT Longhorns and all of these folks in the mid-90s, and you're going to UT. This is, I guess, pre-Butler School of Music. It's still the UT School of Music. What was the game plan? I mean, what was the goal of coming all the way down to Austin and studying guitar more? And then what were you going to do?
Wow, memory lane right away. I was here to study with Professor Adam Holtzman at UT, and Adam is a world-famous guitarist and educator and just a superstar in general of the guitar world. And coming from Oberlin, I'd never been to Texas before. I grew up in the middle of New York State as a vegetarian. Somebody joked in 1996 that they eat people like me in Texas. But so I'd never been here before until the moment that I arrived for school in August. I drove a 1986 Ford Escort from New York State all around the country on a road trip to see friends before coming in from El Paso side all the way to Austin, Texas in August. And
Just made it hard for yourself, didn't you?
it was quite the experience, but a wonderful experience. Really, from the very beginning, Austin was a warm place, figuratively speaking, and of course literally, but really from the very beginning I experienced so much warmth, so much kindness, and from UT, from Adam, and from the studio, and then very quickly as I got involved in this organization from the community, and it's never stopped. But the lanky teenager, so just a couple of interesting little facts. One is that I never graduated from high school. I made it to 10th grade and was at a small arts academy in Michigan called Interlochen Arts Academy. And at Oberlin Conservatory of Music recruits heavily from Interlochen. And so I had just arrived. I was really a month into my semester, spring semester at Interlochen as a 16-year-old when Mike Mandarin came to campus to recruit students to go to Oberlin and saw me and knocked on my door in the practice room building and said, play something on the guitar, and I did. And he said, okay, you're in, and I'll be back in a week with an admissions package. And that's exactly what happened. And so so I'll never forget walking down the hall and calling my dad and said, Dad, I think I'm going to college. And it was really because Oberlin was beginning its first ever guitar program. And they needed guitar students. And so I was the first student of guitar along with two other guys, and they both quit. And so I'm 16 years old in college with no high school degree, and my professor, Steve Aaron, who's a very dear friend, about 6 months into my freshman year, suggested that I start a student guitar club. And so that we could have some access to funds from the student government to bring in artists to Oberlin, because the word guitar wasn't spoken at Oberlin. and so I did that. I started the student club, got a little bit of money, hired my first artist in spring of 1992, and I'm 17 at that point. And the next year, I'd taken some photographs and written a review in the Oberlin Review, and all of a sudden got some more money and got to present a couple more artists the following year, and it got larger, and I got a taste for what it takes to document your work and apply for funding and hire artists, and so by the end of my time at Oberlin, I'm 19, and I asked if I could do a senior thesis project, which was optional, and ended up working with an economics professor named Bob Perron. And Bob led me to a book by these Princeton authors named William Baumol and William Bowen, who wrote a book about economics of the arts in America, and essentially studied a phenomenon they ended up calling the income gap. But it had to do with the fact that as the economy grows and as profit is built on greater efficiencies in the marketplace, we learn to build things faster with less people, more efficiently. We can generate wealth in that process, but things that sort of defy the ability to do more efficiently, like say a Mozart symphony, that you can't play twice as fast with half the people and have it still be good, that those things then get left behind as the economy moves. So your only options are then to charge more for ticket prices, or somehow figure a way to scale what you're doing. And all of that led me to a fascination with nonprofit organizations, and I thought that, wow, I feel like if there's a future in this, and I think there is, then I should, really became interested in nonprofits. So I'm here. I'm 20 years old. I'm starting my master's degree, and a month into my studies, Austin Classical Guitar I'm not going to say fall apart exactly. The organization existed, but there were some.
It was a modest organization at the time.
It was a modest organization, yes.
It was a society. I mean, that was literally in the name, Austin Classical Guitar Society, which is kind of there was a time when a lot of small nonprofit groups tended to be more community-oriented. It was people with similar interests, like the Gilbert and Sullivan Society,
right,
where it gave them an opportunity to get together and share that interest. ACGS at that time was still fairly small,
right?
Wouldn't you say?
Oh yes, very small. The activity was to meet on the third Sunday of every month at 2:30 at the Austin History Center. And we would play for each other. There was no office, no staff, no budget articulated at the time. And yeah, some internal little disagreements had led to a situation where nobody was doing anything with it. And they were looking for somebody to take it on. And I had this little history.
Guitar club guy here.
Guitar club guy has arrived, right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The mission, which I almost remember to this day, began with Austin Classical Guitar Society exists to promote the history and literature of classical guitar. And so in a way, when you think about a mission statement like that, the person, the thing being served by the mission of the organization is the classical guitar. And when you contrast that with the mission statement that has evolved, which is we exist to inspire individuals in our community through experiences of deep personal significance, then you can see embedded just in that a little change over time, a real evolution that would occur.
So you were interested in nonprofits, but were you thinking, when I finish my time at UT, I will start a nonprofit, start to work with a nonprofit? I mean, did you have a sense of where you wanted to be at the end of your educational period in Austin?
My wife, Glenda, is here. She's sitting right there. Hi, cutie. And she's been with me this entire time, believe it or not. Somehow she stayed with me. Thank you, honey. But a story that I've heard her tell a few times is very early. We were, just had met really, and we are having lunch. We go. I'm checking the mail at my apartment at Red River Place Apartments, right across from the Thompson Conference Center over there, and in the mailbox is a brochure from the Dallas Classical Guitar Society. This is probably October or November of 1996. And she remembers very clearly me getting that brochure out and showing it to her and saying, "See this? This is the thing I want to make. I want to make something that looks like this," because at the time they were one of the larger organizations in the country. And our first date, yep. Pro tip, gentlemen, if you're looking to impress. So the question is, did I have a sense? And I would say that pretty early on, I had a bee in my bonnet for sure. I was very interested, and I think the organization actually saw some modest success quickly. I think there was enough positive feedback. We were talking the other day about John Ailey, and John was so kind. And as soon as we had our first series of concerts articulated, he welcomed me in with our first guest artist. We met. I'll never forget it. Performed in the control room there at KUT, and more or less he had every guest artist that we brought to Austin on his show until 2015.
For people who, I'm sure there are many people, I don't have to say anything about John to let you know the impact he had on the entire community. But he started working as a DJ, an announcer at KUT in the mid-'60s, and initially was on the air 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. So he could play anything. he really was he had wide-ranging interests in music, but also in the arts, and he frequently would invite people on. The first time I directed a play in Austin, he invited me on the show, and we spent quite a long time talking. And if he took a shine to you, he would either let you stay on the air longer than you thought you were going to, or he would bring you back every time he knew you were doing a project. It was like, come on the show. And it made an enormous difference because John had such reach in terms of an audience and people who were actively interested in the arts and engaged in seeing and supporting the arts. So that is no small thing that, as a small organization, John is taking you in and helping support and let people know that you're out there.
Yes. I'm 21 and 22 years old. Some of my heroes are coming to our concert series, and John's having us on the radio. We're getting some of that press, and the audiences are growing a little bit. It was just enough to really encourage me to want to keep doing it. And it was back to the warmth of Austin. I've never tried to do this in another city. But I can only imagine that if I was in a place that was perhaps more established, let's say, like a New York or an LA or a Chicago, it might, there's so much there, but there's also so much there. And so when you come in as a new person with a new idea, it's hard for me to imagine that you'd have the kind of open door that I managed to walk through, and I know so many of us did in the arts.
We have had conversations in the past talking about the character of Austin as a city and what enables certain projects, whether they're cultural or otherwise, to succeed in what may seem an unlikely venture. I'm of the mind that Austin is a city where nobody says no. If you say, I've never run a marathon before, but I think I'd like to, nobody will say, you can't do that. They will say, great, go ahead. And if you want to start a nonprofit organization or a cultural organization, nobody will say no. And so which is a slightly different way, they don't always say yes, but they won't discourage you. Much of the time they will encourage you, and it's significant when you recognize, I'm not sure I should be doing this, but everybody else thinks, Austin seems to think this is something that we should do. In what ways did people say yes to you early on, aside from John?
I'll take an angle at that question because it's such a good one, and just say that something I am frequently in wonder about and have been for a number of years now, but more so with each passing year, is the way in which the necessity behind any beautiful thing. It's like any beautiful moment that is created by humans, or not really, requires 1,000 yeses. Tonight, Travis Markham, our Director of Education, is driving to Houston because tomorrow there's going to be a concert and sight reading contest for all of the school programs in Houston. We've had this incredible opportunity to build for-credit guitar across the nation and in Texas quite extensively. And here in Texas, we've built these concert and sight reading contest events to kind of have quality control, essentially, and also a North Star, and to build community around teaching. And so this spring, we'll run 6 of them in 6 different parts of Texas. This week in Denton, some team members go to Denton tomorrow, and then we're in Houston tonight, and then of course, Austin and South Texas. And those are going to be beautiful and transformative experiences for everybody involved. And I love to think about the infinite, countless threads of yes that are required to make each one of them possible. For example, we could spend the entire hour right now talking only about the development of our curriculum, the influence of the people that helped us make it, the influence of the folks like the Weber Family Foundation that believed in us way back in 2003, before we had anything to show for it, and bet on us. The MFS Foundation, and I know Judy is watching online right now, and believed in us starting in 2001 with an education vision. And so many people beyond then who helped us, grow that. All of the hands that have made the curriculum what it is. All of the teachers who said yes to learning a new skill, to coming to be trained to do something that they didn't know that they wanted to do, but they stepped forward and gave of their time. Meredith McCallman is here, and we've been working together since 2009, and is a dear friend, and she said yes at some point, and then kept doing that. And Justice, who all of you know, who was Meredith's student at Lively Middle School, said yes to guitar in that moment, and every single child does that when they pick up the instrument and apply their effort to it. Those are countless moments of yes. Everyone here who is such a dear friend said yes to coming tonight. And it's like the things that we as a civilization create that are beautiful are always a product of countless yeses that are beyond the ability for us to really speak or define, because it's so huge. And I often find that contrasted actually with how it only takes one no to really destroy something. I think of it almost like a garden that is growing, that is nurtured through all of the elements of the ecosystem that allow the plant to grow over time, the energy of the sun and the water and the nutrients in the soil and the DNA of the thing that's growing over time in this beautiful way. It's all of these countless yeses, but it just takes the one foot to land on that thing, or the one act that then sort of smears it away. And we've seen that countless times in our organization. If we think tactically around building education programs, and we've built several hundred school-based programs here in Texas, but how many times has there been maybe one shift in administration or in priority, which then takes something that is so embedded in the community with all of these fragile and beautiful lines of connection and support that have gone into making it what it is, so that there can be these irreplaceable, precious moments of joy and satisfaction in a child's life. Right? It's because it all leads to that, the ineffable moment. And I've, of course, been around long enough to see so many of those programs go away with basically the stroke of a pen, after so many threads go into making it. So I hope that's hopeful and not a downer. I mean, yes, the no is there, but the miraculous thing is that sort of those many beautiful, fragile, precious willingnesses that allow us to create beauty in the world. And I think that the interesting thing about art and theater and music is that all of that stuff is really just the language of beauty. It's that kind of that's the only reason it exists. And so it's such a miraculous, scalable, shareable language built around value for that ineffable thing. But yes, Austin Classical Guitar exists because our community said yes. Many, many, many times.
So you're talking a lot about education and curricula, and clearly that became part of the organization's mission early on in your time of taking care of it. Let's do a little... I want to get down to kind of the philosophy through a sort of role play where I'm I'm one of those kids who says the first yes, which is I say yes to picking up a guitar, an instrument about which I know nothing beyond the shape of it and that it makes music. Yes. But I'm the student. What do you tell me, or where do I start?
Wow.
Through your the way that Austin classical guitar works with kids who are making that first yes.
Yeah, so in about 3 minutes, we've got you sitting with the instrument, and we've got these 3 fingers set up on the top 3 strings of the guitar in what we call home position. And once we're there, we play a couple of notes, and we talk a little bit about the technique, kind of the way to do it, and we practice it a little bit, and then maybe we stand up and we sit back down and we do it again, then we turn the instrument around or play a game and set back up again. So there's a lot of experiential learning very, very fast. And then it's okay, and everything we do in education is a one-to-many model. That's the sort of the innovation of Austin Classical Guitar, was to create a one-to-many model where America didn't really have one of those, because guitar was always taught one-on-one. And so you can imagine it's you plus a few colleagues that are learning to play. And so then once we've kind of got that figured out, we're going to say, okay, well, let's all play together at the same time. Let's play string number 2 with the finger at the same time. So ready, go. And what's going to happen is that the 6 or 10 or 30 kids in the room are going to do that. It's not going to be at the same time. So we'll say, well, no, it wasn't quite exactly the same. Let's try that one more time. Let's do it right at the same time. And as soon as you do that, any human being sits forward. Because all of a sudden, we got a challenge now. Our mentor in education is a guy named Bob Duke. And Bob's at UT. He's a legendary music educator, and we can talk about how he helped us shape this curriculum. But he does a thing in talks where he has the audience of adults who should know better all to try to clap at the same time. So he says, okay, everybody clap, and then he claps, and he's like, well, that wasn't quite together. And it's amazing what happens in a room full of humans when all of a sudden there's a challenge. And we aren't doing it yet, but it's achievable. So we're now setting up the whole structure of what is an achievable challenge, and how, when we present an achievable challenge to any human, does that become a motivator and also an opportunity for achievement, which turns into perseverance. And so that's then the curricular challenge. So which is to say, can we set up 10 or 12,000 steps ahead of that are going to then lead us toward one little achievable challenge after another that moves us along the path toward playing better and better and better. But then it's not just, okay, we got one together, that's great, now let's do it all really soft. No, really soft. And then you get everybody playing really soft, and as soon as you're doing that, everybody's listening. They're hearing each other. And then the instructor maybe adds like a colorful chord. Underneath that open string B, we're going to play a E major 7 chord or something with a 9th in it that's just beautiful and interesting. Then we're going to play a little chord progression under those Bs, and we're going to ask everybody to get louder. And all of a sudden, 11 minutes into our lesson, first time ever holding a guitar, we are creating something beautiful. That's the whole entire philosophy of what ACG does in education. It's expressive, beautiful music making from the very first day. And every time we layer on a tool, a note, a new string, a new finger, a new technique, it's always in service of making the next most expressive thing that we can make. Sometimes we'll co-create. We'll invite the student to okay, we just played a song, what should we call it? And we'll name the song together. Or sometimes we'll have a warm-up and a kid will do something cool, and that becomes an opportunity to improvise. And then let's write our own song based on that. Let's follow that energy, follow that pathway. And so a lot of the idea of what Bob calls getting to the good stuff is really revolutionary in education in general. And I think in music education, certainly in my experience, where so many educators approach the process of teaching through a sense of sort of a progress toward a goal. We're gonna learn many prerequisites essentially so that someday we're going to be able to do something that's kind of interesting. But before that, we're going to learn about what the staff is and what all the notes are and what the key signature is, and they're going to memorize that and then do a worksheet about it. And then we're going to play these notes, and then we're going to play a song called the E song, which is going to be a whole bunch of E's. But there's nothing about that that's expressive or interesting. Or we're going to play Row, Row, Row Your Boat. But so frequently, Row, Row, Row Your Boat is taught in a very flat way. So it becomes an activity, but not an expressive art. And as soon as kids are making expressive art, something turns on inside of them that is so deep in humanity that it becomes a real great driver of motivation, and sort of brings about so many more of those yeses. So we didn't know any of this, by the way, when we started. In 2001, when we first started getting into education, we were just illegally photocopying method books that were designed for one-on-one teaching and putting the one page on every child's music stand and basically teaching a giant private lesson to a whole bunch of different kids at the same time. And we really, it was really 2004. 2004 was an interesting year, actually, because we'd started the program at McCallum High School in 2001. There were 15 kids in one class. By 2004, there were 100 kids at McCallum, and Lamar Middle School asked if we would start a class over there. So I actually personally started that class. I did 2 classes at Lamar in 2004, and 6 of our McCallum graduates, in spite of us, got scholarships to go to college for guitar in 2004. So we were starting to see success, and we had no idea what we were doing, and except it was elbow grease and passion, and so that was sort of that inflection point. And I personally started going around the country because I'd heard, people were starting to hear about it, and so I had heard that there were some other pockets in the country where there was some guitar activity. So I went to the best guitar education centers that I'd heard of in the country, and discovered that they were doing exactly the same thing we were doing. They're basically using method books to teach private lessons to groups of kids all at the same time. And then once the kids were of a certain level of advancement, those that survived that long in that kind of environment, could then access some of the material that was available in the marketplace to buy, like publishers had created music for guitar ensemble. But there wasn't anything that was sort of like a exhaustive and graded methodology for teaching groups of kids, and so that was the sort of genesis of the idea for guitarcurriculum.com. And in 2004, we started building it, and Bob came on to help advise us. Margaret Perry was advising me, and then in 2005, we raised enough money to hire our first education director, and Travis Markham, and Travis and I continued the process for the next 3 years until 2008, when curriculum.com actually launched in its form. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, everything we do in education globally is all, guitarcurriculum.com is sort of the backbone of all of that work. So teachers basically have in that resource at this point, very, very substantial toolbox with everything you can imagine for guitar classroom instruction, from video tutorials to a huge library of multi-step things, to a dynamic system inside that allows you to instantly sort and grade parts, so that you have a group of kids at different levels in the same room at the same time. You can input those levels into the system, and it'll give you scores and parts that'll work for that individualized classroom instantly. And so all of that was just created out of pure necessity. And when it launched, all of a sudden, we were just doing it for our own needs, but when it launched, all of a sudden, people started taking notice around the country.
Can I ask for a distinction? So far, you've made reference to guitar and guitar curriculum, but this is specifically classical guitar. And as I was rereading a piece I wrote about you and the organization a number of years ago, I was reminded that a lot of people push back against the idea that these kids today are not going to be interested in classical guitar. Right. Give them some rock and roll or some heavy metal or whatever. Right. But talk about the philosophy of young people today connecting with classical guitar, even if they're not familiar with the repertoire.
Yeah, so much to say about this. I would just say it really has nothing to do with that. I think that young people getting excited about things has everything to do with finding themselves within it, with seeing how they fit and how they matter. And so if you have an amazing and inspiring teacher of figure skating in your town, and there's an ice rink, you're going to have a bunch of kids that are figure skaters in about 10 years. Because that's just the way it's going to happen. I always think of Ashland, Oregon, and the Shakespeare festival there as this thing. It's almost like you build it and they come. And I think guitar has a really unique power in that it's got a foot in all of these different styles. We're not terribly dogmatic about the classicalness of classical guitar. We're dabbling in all kinds of contemporary sounds and contemporary music. Robert Rodriguez just donated his Spy Kids movie music from the Spy Kids thing, so that we could teach Spy Kids to kids in our schools. And that's a very different kind of a groove. But it's all part of the modern panoply of musical language that we love to give to our kids. What's really great about classical guitar from a pedagogical standpoint is that you read music. And that's what school-based music educators expect. And it's what we want to teach, the same level of rigor and the same transferable skills that you would expect from any high-quality school-based music education program, and that has to do with understanding a score, following a conductor, playing together, having all of the kinds of approaches to refining ensemble playing as you would have, so that if you become a great guitarist in one of our programs, you could also pick up a violin and really understand the language with violin or with any other instrument. And so the tradition of classical guitar teaching really lends itself to sort of a rigorous approach to music education that aligns with the expectations that we have within the school system. But you're absolutely right. When we came at the world classical guitar first, nothing went very well, because basically nobody likes that. There's very few people that will self-identify as like, oh yeah, I'm a classical guitar fan. That's really what I'm interested in. And this is going to sort of maybe veer off into a slightly different topic, but sticking with education for a moment, as we started speaking with more teachers and more principals, there were several myths essentially that we had to commonly deal with. One myth was, no, we don't want to do guitar in our school because it's a hum and strum class and it's not going to involve anything rigorous. And they just didn't know what we were doing yet, but that was sort of the assumption. Then there was the one that you mentioned, which was, what modern American middle school and high school student is going to want to do classical music, let alone classical guitar? So no, we're not interested. And all I can say is that when we passed our first 10,000 students, it was like, okay, well, actually, kids will totally do anything that's done well, where they can get into it. And so it gets back to the clapping and clapping together moment. It's all about that kind of experience in one's heart, where you're being given an opportunity to give of yourself in a meaningful way. And that comes through invitation, it comes through belonging, and it comes through challenge. And so we could be doing this with some other instrument. It happens to be this instrument that we're really good at doing it with.
Well, yeah, I have personal experience with grade school students and Shakespeare. where a lot of times the knee-jerk attitude is Shakespeare's too complex for kids that young. They won't understand, they won't get it, and you're wasting your time and their time. When the fact is, what you said about students finding it within themselves, if you let the students say the words instead of read the words, because they were meant to be performed, and you guide them through a lot of times they can find the meaning for themselves, but if you can guide them into that meaning, then what they are doing is, as you say, finding themselves within the work. And I've seen some actual stunning performances of Shakespearean drama and comedy by 10-year-olds. If you give them the chance, they can get it. And so, yes, I can see it happening. But there was an anecdote that you told in the story that I wrote. A student was, you'd gotten a report that a student was having some problems, and so you investigated to find out what it was. Do you remember that story?
It's coming back to me, but you keep going because
you're
fresher than me.
I
do remember this.
It turned out that.
Oh yes, I know exactly what it is.
Okay, well,
yes, you wanted to play Asturias. This was at Crockett High School. Yes. There was we had a. I got a call. That's right. We got a call from a flustered teacher because there had been a behavior incident.
Yes.
And so this teacher was looking for advice. What do I do? So. Of course, and it actually had gotten a little ugly, and so we'd gotten a parent involved and a principal involved, and so at some point, I remember asking, well, what was the problem? And the problem was that this high school student at Crockett High School, she wanted to play Asturias, which many of you will know. It's like the most famous piece on the classical guitar, and it's not easy, but she wanted to play Asturias, and her teacher had said that she wasn't ready to play Asturias and that she should do something else. And I think he did a little better than that. I think he, maybe made some other suggestions, But she just didn't take that feedback well at all. And she said, well, maybe you're the one that can't play Asturias. and then said some ugly things, which led to the problems. But I remember looking at Travis and saying, this is kind of a cool problem to have. We've got a high school student that's getting ugly because she's not allowed to play Asturias.
That teacher should know. Nobody says no.
That's right. We're in Austin.
Yeah, and that's again, I've seen that same thing happen with Shakespeare and other authors, where you don't want to underestimate the ability of the students, whatever age, to get inside that work or find themselves somewhere in that work. Now, you've used the word transformative already, and I know that is one that comes up a lot when talking about the work of this organization. The idea is not for everybody who takes a guitar class to come out of it wanting to be a concert hall guitarist. You have witnessed transformative experiences by students, and certainly over 30 years, you've seen people grow from middle school students well into adulthood.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the specific transformative experiences that you recall ACG having.
Yeah, so much in there, Robert. Thank you. I mean, I would say, first of all, emphatically no about the idea that every student that picks up our guitar is on a path to Carnegie Hall, and that's our goal. Music is for everybody. Something that we learned early we learned, I don't know when it happened, over time we learned, came to believe that any experience that anybody has with music at any level is as valid as any other experience that anybody else has at any level, so long as there's joy. And I remember 25 years ago, I would hear very frequently as we were starting to experiment with education, oh, Matt, it's great that you're doing education because that's how you're going to build like the audience of the future for ACG. You're going to have the donors of the future are going to grow up and they're going to love guitar and then they're going to become members and they're going to come to your concerts. And I remember it bothering me early on, but it took me a little while to realize why it bothered me. And the reason is that the notion that that's what we were doing in education was supportive of a hierarchical view of what's important about music. The most important thing being the moment when there's a professional artist on this stage, the lights are dark out there, and there's an audience listening, and that's the reason we exist. That's the high point. And everything else we do serves that thing. And what we realized is the more we worked with hundreds and then thousands of kids, was that that's the important thing. Also, this is an important thing. But every moment in any one of those schools, when a young person has an instrument in their hands, that experience that they're having in that moment is 100% as important as anything else this organization produces. And so we're going to do those things for their own merits. They have that intrinsic value, not an instrumental value that's going to then lead to something else that we're really hoping for. And so that extends to, I think, a sort of a grand error that we've made in the classical music world and perhaps in the education world more broadly. And the error is that the error is that progress is the most important thing, and that the product that we're creating is more important than the process by which we're creating it. This is one of the great common errors I think our civilization has made, is separating the importance of the product from the process. For example, what is education? Fundamentally, what are we trying to do with human beings? And then what is SAT preparation? What is an approach to get a result on a product is a very different mindset than an approach to a nurturing a space for exploration and wonder and the cultivation of interest and joy and learning as a result of all of that. All to say, back to my world, which is classical music, it's so interesting, Robert, when I am introduced to somebody, and if they find out that I'm involved in classical music, 7 out of 10 people will share with me a story of shame. And this is not a big, deep, profound thing that we should necessarily cry about, but it's a story of shame. It's a story of, oh, I stopped playing whatever instrument at a certain age, or oh, I never practiced enough and never got very good, or oh, I play guitar but not like you do, not like classical guitar. There's like a falsehood that we've all collectively bought into that says it's got to be a certain kind of a shiny product in order for it to matter. And I'll never forget Bob Duke at UT inviting us to invite our students to quit frequently along their process. So basically to say, okay, great, you've completed book 1, congratulations, you're done. You have learned this thing and it's wonderful and you should be proud of yourself. If you want to do book 2, well then by all means, come on back, let's do book 2 and we'll keep going. You know, we'll kind of explore this and we'll take it further. But if you don't, that's just fine. because what mattered was the process of learning and that you had a good time while you were doing it. Right. And so as we get back to this idea that there's this idea that Austin Classical Guitar is trying to create all of these incredible guitarists who are going to go on to become professionals, as if the marketplace could support that anyway. and it's like emphatically no. Like we are just trying to create moments of significance every single time we're together for the entire time that we're together. End of story. And if that involves progress over time, and of course it always does, then that just keeps it interesting. And so by driving, so over time we ended up, there was a bunch of research done on our program at the UT School of Social Work about what was really transforming within kids' hearts, and they articulated all of that, and it's a great study. I'll share it with anybody that's interested in it. But that helped us to land at a sort of a theory of engagement. And the theory of engagement we call the 5 elements. And the 5 elements are belonging, personal responsibility, perseverance, performance, and celebration. So the idea is that you come into our class as a beginning guitar student. It's very important that the environment that I've created as a teacher makes you feel welcome. I've learned your name. I'm asking how you're doing. I'm working at a pace that is working with you. I'm not alienating you in my behavior and the way that I call you out or focus on your errors. You are welcome in this classroom and you feel like you belong. And personal responsibility is like that moment when the kid stays after school to practice free throws on the basketball team because they know they matter. And they want to contribute and they want to give to that thing. And that can be achieved or encouraged by teacher behavior as well, because we can create environments where small groups of kids will play for the rest of the class, or we will give each other feedback, or we can have an individual be a model, or we can just show interest in each child's progress. And then the third step is perseverance, and that's really one we've already talked about, which is I as a teacher am not putting things in front of you that you're not likely to be able to do very well. I'm going to put things in front of you that you can't do yet, but you will be able to with the right amount of coaching and the right amount of time. And that's going to lead to an opportunity to progress, and that's going to lead to perseverance. So small challenges, small failures, and really creating a culture and an opportunity and an environment where it's okay to make a mistake, which so many of us get bred out of us over time, right? Through the education system, it is not okay to make a mistake. And that's why well, anyway. And then the fourth step is performance, which is perhaps obvious. And the fifth step is celebration, which is when we clap for the performance, and that's perhaps obvious, except we don't mean on the macrocosm. It's not that the performance happens at the end of the semester or at the end of the year. The performance happens every single class period, every single time. So when we are together, we are making music. We feel like we belong. We feel like we are important. We are being challenged and we're working. We're able to make mistakes. We're having an opportunity to perform, to make music, to make expressivity, and there is celebration of all of those things every single class period. And as we were able to observe more and more teachers nationally, we started to see that when those 5 elements were present in any socioeconomic environment, the teacher was consistently successful. And when any one of those 5 elements was not present, and believe me, it's not a foregone conclusion. I don't know how many of you have ever had a band teacher that was a jerk, but I happen to have one of those. But there's lots of moments when there's very little celebrating going on. Oh, yeah. And any of these elements are missing, then that whole the sort of the cycle can break down. The point is none of that has to do with becoming the greatest guitarist in the world. Yeah. None of that has to do with how we train teachers to teach this song and before you teach that song, and kind of grow in your kind of structural technical sequencing. Those are important elements. We train teachers on that as well, but fully 50% or more of the time that we train teachers is in the 5 elements. That's all in invisible space. It's all in the territory of the heart, in the significance of the moments that we have together. That's all we're trying to do. is to generate many, countless thousands of these moments that are encouraging and meaningful and joyful. The bonus happens to be that when you do that, kids get really good at guitar too. So,
My watch is a horrible liar. It's telling me that almost an hour has gone by, and it feels like we just started.
yeah, we're just getting started. Yeah, I hope you all realize we're going till 9 tonight. This is
I have lots of other questions I could keep asking, but I also wanted to extend the opportunity to everyone here to ask a question. If not everyone here, but I wanted to extend the opportunity to everyone in case somebody has a question they would like to ask Matt right now. Yes,
Meredith.
I'm sorry, I've been frantically making notes down here. I'm not on my phone. I want to affirm something Matt said about threads of yes, and that so many people said yes to Austin classical guitar. And as an educator who I'm a cellist primarily, but Austin classical guitar has said yes to me so many times and to my students, and really changed my life as an educator. When I first asked Matt if I could start a classical guitar program, because I absolutely hated teaching hum and scrum. I was hired to teach orchestra and basically that kind of class. Matt said yes and sent someone out to train me. He said yes to my 7-year-old when he started studying classical guitar, Austin classical guitar. Every time I would ask to do something, can we collaborate with Austin classical guitar and make a video? Yes. What can we do to help? So, I have a student that desperately needs a private teacher, has no means whatsoever of doing that. Can you all help? Yes. So, that's what caught me, is those threads of yes. We have a student from Soundwaves who was playing classical guitar and is now, thanks to Austin classical guitar saying yes to Xavier, he's now on a full scholarship at Frost School of Music in Florida, because Austin classical guitar said yes, we can help you out. And now he wants to turn around. He's in music therapy and classical guitar performance, and he'll be giving all of that yes back.
Yeah, he
So
will.
that it's just been a phenomenal. I mean, I can call Matt and say, hey, I need a guitarist to help me with a performance in 24 hours, and I get a list of people. So, that's a very powerful that when I think of Austin classical guitar, I just think of how many yeses that I've gotten over the years.
Thank you, Meredith. It's just so beautiful to hear you reflect like that, and so I'm kind of trying to keep it together. But the larger theory that we're working with at ACG, one of our strategic initiatives really is around developing our understanding of what we call a pro-social ecosystem. And the pro-social ecosystem is sort of the space of hearts and minds that are impacted by this organization or an organization like ours. And just like any ecosystem, how do you supply the necessary nutrients that are required for life? But then also, what's happening out there that we maybe perhaps had a hand in creating a stage for, a platform for, but is sort of bubbling up and developing. So when a talented young student like Xavier comes to us through your recommendation, and we're able to do what we do to assist in a path, we play a role in that. But it's you, it's him, it's when we designated our season theme a bunch of years back as was together. Every year we have a season theme, and so our season theme was together. You wrote to me and said that reading about our season theme inspired you to go down the hall to do something together with the dance instructor, and this was actually 2019, 2020. And so the dance instructor choreographed a thing that to do a dance alongside two of the curriculum pieces, and you sent me a video, and it was just gorgeous. and something that, your creativity, her creativity, your community came together to make a thing. And then, what we as ACG, apart from celebrating that and being amazed and grateful for that impulse, were then able to ask you to perform that to open our March 7th, 2020 concert, which was 1 week before everything closed down at the AISD PAC, and 1,100 people in the audience got to see 27 kids or so from your ensemble plus the dancers perform right before David Russell played. And it's one of my favorite videos, even still, is your kids dancing to Koi Under Moon Bridge on, but again, that's like the ecosystem that is able to kind of develop is kind of staggering, really. It's beyond anything I can really comprehend.
And I'll say one more thing and then I'll shut up. But just this afternoon, like 4 hours before this, I was using I don't know what you call it. I'm using a piece of music or a method that Travis Markham developed, open.
Yeah.
Where you use these different ostinatos. I used it with string players. I don't know if we didn't do that yet. Just. No, we didn't have it yet, sorry. But it works, it's just an idea of how to put music together. It can, it doesn't have to necessarily be classical guitar, so.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing where it gets kids playing early on.
Yeah.
Inspired.
Yes.
So Pepe was here several times throughout the year, and so we would only get him for about a week at a time, and then what we did is just designated by Jim. Thank you. We designated the 9 kids that were going to play with him, and assigned them. Actually, it was a really interesting project, and many of you probably already know about it. But it was a Pepe Romero is one of the great leaders and icons of the classical guitar world. He rocketed to fame as a member of the Los Romeros Guitar Quartet, which was his father and his 2 brothers and himself. And so they really pioneered the tradition of guitar quartet. And so on Pepe's 80th birthday, we had him as an artist in residence, and what we decided to do was designate 3 student guitar trios, each of whom would learn 3 out of 4 parts of a Los Romeros set of pieces that were played by the Los Romeros, and then with a teacher sitting in, and then Pepe would come when he was in town, and he would be the 4th member of the ensemble. So 3 sets of 3 kids got to play as members of a quartet with Pepe playing Los Romeros repertoire. And that became our season finale at the end of the year. That's right. Yes. Well, and that's this is where all of the sort of esoteric conversation starts to come into focus, right? It comes into focus when Meredith talks about using Travis's methodology this afternoon. It comes into focus when you're bringing up when we're talking about a pro-social ecosystem and we get creative. What does that really mean? Well, what about creating an opportunity like that and putting resources behind it so that 9 students will have an experience that they will never forget. Pepe Romero will have an experience he will never forget. And in the process of that, many, many people will be inspired. And that's just one of 500 projects that we're doing that year. That happens to be a higher profile project. But we're always looking for, again, I talk about moments of significance. We're always looking for those moments of significance where the experience somebody is having is one that is transformative. I never forget, we've had the incredible opportunity to add our 4-credit guitar program to the juvenile justice system here in Texas. and we operate in 5 juvenile detention centers each day currently. And that was groundbreaking in that, you know, in the history of Texas, and as far as we know in the United States, there had never been such a program of this kind. That is a 4-credit daily performing arts class for incarcerated kids. And but the last time I was at Gardner Betts, the kids played 7 pieces. And it was me, about 20 other audience members, including staff. Jose Garza was there, DA, a handful of other people, and the kids. And they played 6 pieces, and then they played the 7th piece. And before they played the 7th piece, one of the kids stood up and introduced it. And because he introduced it, because they had written the 7th piece. It was their piece. And hard for me to convey, but I'm sure you can all imagine what that felt like as an audience member watching. Because it went from kids doing something that they loved, that they were good at, that they were, you know, really excited about, to something they owned, that they had made. And that made such an enormous difference. So I guess when I'm thinking about the art and magic of creating moments of significance, you know, you create doing something with Pepe Romero is doing something with Robert Rodriguez, where Robert's going to come and film a music video of 20 kids playing Spy Kids movie music, which he did for us. I mean, those are things those kids will never forget, and those of us that were part of it, you know. So there's back to the ecosystem. There's something bubbling here in creating a whole theory of sort of community engagement through art.
Any other questions? I think we can take one more.
Yeah,
Okay.
Carrie. Right. Yeah, I mean, so the question is how does being a student in guitar impact a student's life, for example? And there's really a lot of ways of looking at that. There's my favorite way, and then there's the other ways. So my favorite way is that I think we look at guitar and what we do in education as a medium for connection. And I feel, by the way, the same way about our concerts. Our concerts are wonderful and the artists are incredible and we could all celebrate that. But really what's going on is it's a medium for us all to connect, to be in this space, to enjoy each other's company, and to celebrate the beauty of human achievement. And in that space, I think we get back to transformation. We have the Austin feels like home. It feels like we have a community here. We have shared beliefs and shared values, and we celebrate achievement. And so and celebrate togetherness. Celebrate beauty, really, is what it comes down to. Joe said that our change agents are beauty and kindness, and I think that that's really the truth. That's what we've decided, at least. So okay, in an education setting, I believe what is transformative is the time that we are spending together as human beings, working to create something of significance and beauty together. That, by the way, is a stark contrast to the artificiality of the world that we find ourselves in the age of the smartphone. And there's a lot of research about that we can point to, about isolation and fragmentation and separation. And I think we have an opportunity in music to create a container for connection. So what happens? Oh, you've got a young person who goes to school and has a guitar class that they love, where they get to maybe travel and perform once in a while. They've got friends that they develop very close relationships with over time. All of a sudden, school becomes a place that has a different kind of a value and a different kind of a draw. There's a belonging there, in at least this class and hopefully all of their classes, but who knows? This becomes very, very significant in areas of great need. So if you've got a child, and there's children like this in every school, that for one reason or another don't have a sense of belonging in their lives very frequently, or don't have positive peer-to-peer relationships, or don't have positive relationships with adults, then this can become a real oasis and a life-changing social opportunity. And I have letters that attest to this. I have so much witness that attest to this. Meredith could talk to you all night long about what she has witnessed working at Lively Middle School and the places that she's working now, in the way that music becomes that sort of safe harbor. And it's really in the connection that it creates that it allows us to create over time. Obviously, if you go to a place like the juvenile justice system, where everything about that space is hard-edged and really not terribly human feeling, and a child is looked at from a standpoint of judgment on a daily basis, and there's no quicker to alienate two people than to have one judge the other one, and yet that's the entire experience. And so when you inject something off the wall like beauty and kindness in the form of classical guitar class every day into a very stark and cold and punitive system like that, then you have an opportunity to make an enormous difference in somebody's trajectory in their lives. Now, again, we have many stories to tell of personal transformation, and joy and relationships built over time, and that turns into incredible behavioral changes over time as well. I hope everybody will stop by and admire the paper guitar outside, which was built at the Juvenile Detention Center at Gardner Betts by a child that was there, who started in a very angry place when we met him. And by the end of 18 months of study with us, was making an object that took him 3 months to make as a gift for his teacher, that he surprised his teacher with, Jeremy Osborne, and Osborne is written across the front of that beautiful instrument. But then you can also look at things like actual academic achievement. And we have the opportunity through a program in AISD, for example, where we can look at, say, STAR test results, or attendance, or behavioral referrals leading to suspension on a child-by-child basis. And we can compare, for example, guitar students at any school with non-guitar students in the same school, matched by campus and by demographic. So it's not like we're doing a comparison of affluent kids that all have private lessons or music instruction with kids that don't, but actually looking apples to apples within the school district. And then we can actually look at that on every Title I school campus. So the most recent study we did was 1,700 kids in 21 campuses here in Austin. And the evidence is pretty overwhelming that basically when kids are involved in a program like ours, in our guitar program currently, they are outpacing their non-guitarist peers on all 6 STAR subjects, and they're about half as likely to get in trouble, leading to suspension, as kids that are not in guitar, matched by campus, matched by demographic. And that's a multi-year trend now, so it's really pretty clear.
Well, I don't think anyone was under the misguided impression that we would cover 30 years in 1 hour's conversation tonight, but I do believe we succeeded in having a moment of significance. An hour of beauty and kindness and joy in talking to Matt and reliving some of the experiences he's had with Austin Classical Guitar and the changes, the transformative changes that it's made in individuals' lives and in our community overall. So thank you for your kind attention, and please join me in thanking Matt for telling us.
Oh, yes.
Was this recorded? Because I need to listen to this again.
It was, yeah. It was live streamed, and it's going to live online, and so, yeah. So
I want
it'll
to
be on
share
our
it with my
YouTube channel.
kids. I want to share it with
Oh, yeah, I do. Okay.